Hi friends, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and today we're going to look at how in the world you use gaff tape to tape down cables and other things. Because I think it can feel self-explanatory to people. You go, hey, it's kind of like black duct tape. It's actually way better than black duct tape. But the purpose is a little bit different because gaff tape, in essence, is generally designed for temporary setups to temporarily put down cords, etc., fix items, tape down fabrics. There's a lot of things you can use gaff tape for, and in today's video, we're going to go through those common ways of using it. I'm going to show you some of the things not to do with gaff tape, to never, ever, ever do. And so that you end up loving gaff tape and it ends up serving you well. And also, so it helps you save money, not waste tape, make sure you get the right tape, etc. Okay, today we're also about halfway through, at the time of this video coming out, a little promotion we're doing where we've recently become dealers for Gaffer Guys, which is a new high-performance gaff tape. Works just as well as the professional stuff, but we've got a really special offer where you can get a free roll. I'll talk about that later if you haven't checked it out already. If you catch this later, the free roll promotion is going to be over, but we still love this tape and it still could save you 50% or more on your tape expenditures, and like, who doesn't want free money? Gaff Taping 101. The most common use for gaff tape is taping cables to the floor. I would say that's number one. Whether that be across a stage, across a doorway, across a public area, etc. Okay? When you're going to tape a cable, the first thing, the number one thing you want to think about is, what kind of space is this? And how much foot traffic are we expecting? Because that ultimately is going to determine how intense you get with your taping. Okay, let's start with the least intense first. Say you've got a stage area, and just for the sake of this demo, we've just got a single electrical cord, or maybe we also have a DMX or microphone cable here, and we're going to run that across our stage area. So we've got two different runs of cable here. We'll probably put them together later. But the first thing is, okay, let's route this cable so that we have the minimum amount to tape, the minimum out in an open walkway. Okay, so whether that means you're going closer to some stage monitors and you kind of cut across a tighter area, that may be what works. If you're taping around stairs, for an example, you've got stairs to a stage, a lot of times it makes really good sense to come down off the top of that first stair, come into the end of the tread where your foot sits, and run the cable in there, so that it's an area where people don't actually like walk and set their flat foot down on. That makes it safer, that makes it less likely to run into issues. So let's just say we're in a stage space, we're in kind of the minimum amount of taping because, this is a stage, we've got a band on it, we've got performers, generally people that know there's cables on the ground, they're used to it. Then we're going to tape it one of two ways, okay? The first and simplest is to just take our tape here, get a good starting piece, which you don't want to go too wide, but you need to go probably wider than you initially think, okay? If you go too thin on this first piece, if you don't go long enough on it, it's gonna come off the ground, and this is somewhat up to the ground you've got, right? Like here, I'm on this table, but if I was down on the carpet below, I've got a little bit less adhesion, so I would use a little more tape. But this is a good amount, and so we want to start this at the start of the tape run, press it down, push it over the cable like so. Okay, now this is our starting piece. The point of this starting piece that we've just put down is to get ourselves going, to get ourselves so that basically, we now can straighten out the cable for the rest of the run. okay? If it is literally in a minimal space where you've just got, maybe a band who's used to being around tape, you may not have to do the full covering of gaff and just do a few stripes like this along the tape. Let me show you how, okay? So in that case, we would go ahead and then grab another stripe. For a nice clean line, especially if it gets long, I like to just go to the other end of the tape, have somebody hold the first end, or get something heavy on it. Then we go to the second end. Let's see, I folded it over a little on itself, but I was able to pull it back off. So we go to the far end, hold the tape on the cable, straighten the cable out. Again, you want to have somebody holding this other end, which is a little hard to do by myself, and then push it down. Okay, so now we've pushed that down. Now we've got a nice run of cable. Now, if somebody kicks into this right now, if somebody hits it with their toe, whatever, it's going to start pulling. It's going to start getting some slack in here where the cable's going to go like this, right? It's going to be all like that, and then it's going to become a mess. So to finish it, we're just going to grab a couple more pieces. And every couple feet, and this really depends on what kind of people are going to be on the stage. Are they used to cables? Are they paying attention, etc.? On a run like this, that's about 3 feet. Just a single one in the middle works great. It also depends on how many cables you've got. You want to line them all up, just like I lined up this single cable. So if you had more cables, you would line them all up really nice so they're not bunching over each other, because that creates high spots, that creates danger zones, okay? But line them up next to each other, same process, start of the end of the, etc. If you need to add more cables like we've done so far, then you want to not tape over and just add more. That's lazy, that's not good. But just take the tape up. A lot of times you can do this, even on carpet, and slide that in there, right? So, number 2. Number 3. And again, there's 2 places where taping like this works really well, where you're just doing some strips of tape along the cable or cables as they go. The first is like stage, tech booth areas where there aren't public people or that are walking over it. There's just people that are going to be cognizant of cables. Maybe it's a pretty short-term thing. Often, that's all you need. But if it's a place where you're going to have public people, even on a stage, if maybe there's going to be an award given out, somebody from the public coming on stage that is random from the audience, anything like that, then you want to get more in depth in this, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay? This method, just using stripes of tape like this across the cable, also works great when you're going up walls. Okay? If you need to go up a wall, up and over a door frame, etc. Taping start and end maybe in the middle, just to keep that in place, to keep it from snagging people as they walk by, or things like that, can work really well. When we're in a semi-public or more public space, now it's time to cover up this entirely, to really do a good job taping it down. A lot of people's first inclination, this is one of the #1 mistakes with gaff tape, is even if it's just like a single microphone cable. So you might think, oh, I can just go and I can just pull this out. I'll tell you a trick for long runs in a second. And just run it over the cable like this, right? Like I can literally just run it over the cable, like it covers the cables. I can push it down around the cable and I'll be good to go. If you've had experience in this, you probably know very quickly that's not a good idea. Sure, it saves cost, and if it's a single mic cable, single DMX cable, it can work, but more often than not, if you're in a public area or if it's going to be there for more than a couple days and a lot of people are walking over it, especially on carpet, then what's going to happen is even if you press it down really good, people are going to start bunching up. It's going to eventually start pushing under the cable. Then it does what we always dread with gaff tape, which is if it folds back on itself around the cable, you can't peel it apart. It's too strong. The only way to get it off that point is to take a knife, carefully peel it off, pull the rest off. It's no fun. Okay? And so what you want to do, what oftentimes is the best thing to do in these situations, is do 2 strips. So you're going to need some overlap so that it doesn't break in the middle, but go about 60% across, right? Tear it. Come on the other way. About 60% across, so there's about 10% overlap. Same thing, okay? And what this is going to do, and you can go ahead and like, you know, really put it down nice. You can push it down nicer than I did and not have these little ripples. But essentially, having that 2 rows on pretty much, if you're in a high traffic area, even for a single mic cable or DMX cable, if you're doing 2 cables, 3 cables, etc., you'll want more than 1 strip. If you do a lot of single power cables, you may want to get 3-inch gaff, which isn't available at the time of this recording from Gaffer guys, but they're talking about doing it. We'll probably have it on our site sooner than later. But even 2 strips is great. It works well. 3-inch gaff doesn't really save you cost in the sense that the cost per case is going to be the same. You just get less rolls in the case. It's the same size case. It's just a 1-inch wider tape. So it doesn't really cost a lot more. But that's what you want to do to have a good tape. If you're in a really high traffic area, take this 1 step further and do your strips that are your short strips that you went across, at least at the ends, and put them on top as well, okay? Because when you do that, that'll help keep it from kind of starting to come up at the ends at all if that starts to happen, okay? Taking up tape. Pulling up the gaff tape is almost as important as placing the gaff tape on. Because again, what you want to avoid is peeling up, you know, say you just go, you're tearing down, right? And you just peel up the cord. What happens, okay? If you do this as the cable starts to come up from the floor, the tape is going to come, it's going to fold around, it's going to reattach to itself. And as we discussed so many times already, right? When that happens, you get it really stuck to itself. The only way typically to remove it is by using a knife, and it's not fun. So the best thing to do, hold down the cable, okay? Grab with your hand, pull up the tape, right? Then pull up the other strips that didn't come up, and then you're good to go. Okay, then you can make yourself a nice tape ball, and you can go throw it at somebody. As you noticed, when I lifted up this short 3-foot section of tape, if you're in a church or somewhere where it's not a high pile carpet, if you do want to save money on gaff and you've got a little place to store it for reuse, you can reuse the same gaff a couple times. I know that feels like reusing your coffee and heating it back up the next morning, which is kind of gross, but like if you take it and literally, I mean, it pulled off this clean for me, you know, quite nice and clean. I could have pulled it off cleaner, like I let this 1 strip fold over a little. If you pull up short sections fairly clean like this, you can place it back on a new section of cable, you know, the next day and get a couple uses out of it. If you are on a church and you're on a hard stage, you know, wood or something like that, you can totally put it, you know, save those pieces along the back of stage or just off stage somewhere, and you can totally reuse those, and that's a way to save money on gaff tape, which I know can get expensive. Another couple tips, if you're doing really long runs of tape, then you want to have a friend hold down the tape in the back. Okay, they can use their foot too. They can hold it with their hand, they can hold it with their foot. Then you're going to pull for a really nice run of gaff tape. You're going to pull it out really far, right? You're going to go, they're going to hold the tape. You're going to go walk away with the roll. You're going to go really far. Then, as they're going along the cable, and we'll just do this sideways so it's easy to see, they're holding it down. You're at the end of the cable with this pulled all the way out nice and straight. And then they can go along the cable and just press it down like this. See that? And come to you. And that way, as they're pressing it down and maybe the cable wiggles a little, you can adjust, okay, side to side a little bit with your roll. But as they lay that down, as they press that down, using that method with a friend is going to be a lot nicer, a lot cleaner, a lot straighter of a run of tape than if you try to go and walk along the tape and go pull some, run it down, pull some, run it down. It's going to be faster too. So be aware of that. I hope you enjoyed these tips for gaff taping. Certainly it wasn't everything. Actually, one that's really key is if you are taping, I'm going to roll this back on the roll just to save a little bit. If you are taping and you are taping it to a hard surface and you're taping something usually other than cables, do yourself a favor. Give yourself what's called a courtesy tab. What's that? That means that you're taping, say maybe I'm taping something to this truss, like a fabric banner or something, okay? Instead of finishing the tape job just flat and pushing that against, I'm just going to take a corner and I'm just going to fold it back, okay? Against itself. That creates what's called a courtesy tab. You can see it there. That means that if this is going around the truss for some reason, I like to use electrical tape on truss, but whatever, and I go to pull that up, now I'm not like going with my finger, plus if you're wearing gloves while loading out, you can't get the edge of the tape. But if you have that courtesy tab, it doesn't really stand out, it doesn't really hang up at all, but you can just grab that courtesy tab, pull that right off, right, because on the other side it's folded back, there's no adhesive there, it's not going to stick. Okay, so those are my tips on gaff tape. I've laid a lot of gaff tape. It can get expensive, but if you're a church, production company, what have you, we would love to help you with your gaff tape needs. We've aligned with these guys from Pro Gaffer because Gaffer guys, sorry, from Gaffer guys, I said the wrong name, because ultimately they've shown us that they've brought a really great tape, just as good as the expensive Pro Gaff stuff, which is the industry standard and it's good tape, but this is an alternative at a much lesser cost. So if we can help you save that money, awesome. And remember, we've got a promotion going. It's just got 1 week left at the time of this video, where if you go buy a roll of this tape from us, okay, on our site, you're going to pay for the roll and for shipping. If you go ahead and then want to buy a full case of tape, we're going to send you a quote so that you can buy that tape and get your first roll free, so that you're getting the cost that you paid for the first roll subtracted from that whole case. In fact, if you buy a half case, I'll subtract the cost of the roll initial, but not the cost of shipping. Okay, so it's a win-win either way. If that sounds good, guys, just go ahead, buy it from us at Learn Stage Lighting Gear. We love to help people find unique solutions to help save money. If that's interesting to you, we're also going to do a subscribe and save. So if you get your first roll, you say, hey, I want to buy cases, I want to subscribe and save. We're going to have that option as well. Check it out at LearnStageLightingGear.com. Links below to this exact tape. We would love to help you guys with it. And so what do you think? Did you learn something new about taping today? I hope you did, and I hope we can help you with your future gaff tape needs over at Learn Stage Lighting Gear. See the difference. Try it out for free. Thanks. We'll see you there. Bye.